Hey friends, we got some major updates coming in from down south. We have Panama releasing numbers of what is coming our way. We have an increase of 50% of people heading north to the intention to cross the U.S. border. They're apparently trying to get in before the election. This is a major update we need to talk about because this is huge. This is one of the biggest things happening out there, and you won't like where they're coming from either. Let's jump into it. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar. I'm an accountant by trade, and we're covering the news that the mainstream media is not covering. Panama is saying 50% increase in September compared to August. Massive numbers of people crossing the Darien Gap with the intention of coming into the U.S. illegally. Now, a lot of these people are coming from Venezuela. Now, where is that gang from that is invading and taking over apartment complexes? Oh, right, they're from Venezuela. And so a large number of these people are coming from Venezuela. We've heard many reports out there that Venezuela is intentionally dumping. They're basically kicking people out of their country. They have the jails. They have them full of criminals, and they say, you need to leave this country and you can never come back. Go. And they send them out of the country because they don't want to house them. They don't want to feed them. They don't want to pay for them being in jail. It's cheaper to send them north to the United States. And they know that the United States, or at least one of the parties in the United States, is very excited to have them. It's all right as long as they only take over a few apartment complexes, according to the mainstream media out there. J.D. Vance was just on TV, and the interviewer was basically saying that. It was like, well, it's just a few isolated incidents. And he said, you know, do you even hear yourself? How many is tolerable? How many incidents are okay? And the answer to that is zero. The United States should not be having apartment complexes taken over by gangs, and the police go, oh, we can't do anything about it. We can't do anything about it. And how serious are things? Well, a recent memo by the U.S. government. Now, I don't know why the border czar like Harris would actually read this kind of thing, but apparently 30% of the security cameras across the southern border are broken. They don't work. Now, I've heard of putting up security cameras that are fake in order to kind of like make people think that your home is protected or something like that. But the idea that 30% of the security cameras put up along the southern border don't work at all, I find that number to be rather frightening. Now, is it because they're being taken out by the gangs as they come across? Possibly. Is it because our government is just too incompetent to actually install working security cameras? Well, that's definitely possible too. But we're getting told that there is absolutely no problem on the southern border whatsoever. And yet we have this massive caravan being funded and supported by these NGOs, these nonprofit groups that are very political, that are trying to destroy our country. We have the United Nations, we have the Red Cross, we have other organizations that are absolutely helping these people to violate the laws. Now, I don't know what would happen if you and I were to start a nonprofit and our goal would be to facilitate people committing murder. I don't know. Do you think we would go to jail for that? Like if we were actively helping people do that? I think it would be fair to say we'd probably go to jail. Now, if you're part of a special group, maybe you wouldn't go to jail for very long. I don't know. But what other crime can you have a nonprofit facilitating, like literally aiding and abetting in the pursuit of a crime? And yet somehow this organization is still legitimate and tax deductible. Like seriously, we're funding. The United States government is funding people breaking the law. And that, as soon as they cross the border, then FEMA swoops in and starts equalitating them. what's their language again? Equity. We must have equity. And that means not giving to disaster victims, but rather giving to people who are creating a disaster. The people who have intentionally chosen to cause a problem are the ones who are going to get the funds, are going to get things, but the people who got struck by a natural disaster don't get anything. And that's the situation where we are in right now. Now, these numbers out of Panama. So they're saying 25,000 people have crossed the Darien Gap in September. Now, I've said a lot of these people are coming from Venezuela. Now, a whole bunch of these are also Chinese. And that should worry us, right? Because one of the reasons is that if you're Chinese and you want to leave China, okay, you have to get a passport. Now, it's not like the United States where you just pay a fee and send in your picture and do this kind of stuff. No, you need to apply and you need to get approved for a passport. And you know what? Your social credit score has to be X before you're allowed to get a passport. You basically, most cases, and this is what I've heard, and there are exceptions or whatever, but basically if you want to get out of China, you basically have to either be a Chinese Communist Party member, a CCP member, you have to have had military service, or you have to have some other connection, right? You can't just get a passport because you want one, right? That is not how the whole system works. And so we have a lot of these military members. We have a lot of people who are CCP members are crossing the U.S. border. And why? What is the purpose of that? What is their intention? I don't know what their intention is. And neither do you. And no one knows what their intention is. But yet somehow we're allowing this to happen. Now, just to tell you kind of how things are going, because I know in the recent debate between Trump and Harris, ABC jumped on something Trump said and he said that the crime rate is going up. And they said, according to the FBI statistics, violent crime has gone down 2.1%. Well, in the most recent numbers here, just released 3 weeks before the election, I mean, why wouldn't you bury these numbers, right? They kind of had to adjust them a little bit because they were a little bit off. So instead of violent crime going down 2.1% for the year, we're not talking about like a month or like, it actually went up 4.5%. Now, for those of you who aren't doing Common Core math, because you'll need a sheet of paper for this, most of us can add 2.1 and 4.5% together and go, gee, isn't that like a 6.6% increase, over what they reported? Yeah, it is. It's a big number. That's not a small number. I don't know how they managed to just find, 100,000, 200,000 more violent crimes that were just kind of, under somebody's desk or something. That's probably how it is. They probably have the big paper stacks and, the guy with the stapler probably is hoarding a stack of, 200,000 violent crimes that he just didn't want to let out until 3 weeks before the election. So I don't know if ABC is going to issue a correction or an apology for interrupting and correcting Donald Trump because Donald Trump said that actually crime stats were going up. And they said, nope, it's going down. Well, it turns out he was right. Gee, can you believe that? Can you imagine how every single fact check that ever seems to happen ends up being wrong? It's funny how that works. It's almost like the fact checks are factless checks. So we got the FBI quietly rigging the U.S. Election. We got all this money flowing in from overseas. We got hundreds of thousands of people coming in from wonderful places like Venezuela, where all their jails are getting emptied and where these violent gangs are coming from. And we're getting Chinese citizens who may or may not be Communist Party members and previous military members. I mean, and you can say, well, Steve, you're just overgeneralizing, and that's just not really who's coming across the border. Then why do we keep seeing consistently 80+% of these people are single males? 80+%. 80+% are military-aged males coming from all sorts of places that don't like us very much, coming from Iran, coming from China, coming from Russia. Yes, we have Russians crossing the southern border. And now, should we be concerned about that? I mean, isn't Russia like the big problem? I don't know. We have people fleeing from other countries that don't like us very much. And yet, nobody's concerned about that. Nobody's concerned about that. Now, they are a drain on our social services. That's a concern. But when it comes to security, that's the biggest concern. We just recently had a Afghan who had come to the United States, and he was planning on helping ISIS do an attack on the United States from inside. Now, I'm glad the FBI actually did their job for once there. I don't know if that was another accidental thing, but they actually stopped the guy. But how many more? How many more inside our country are planning these type of attacks, getting resources from abroad, and are planning to do us harm? Perhaps they're not planning on just creating mayhem, but rather they are part of an intelligence service from another country that are intended to spy, to scout out our infrastructure, and to potentially be prepared to sabotage our infrastructure. We want to go to war with these other countries. We want to degrade their capabilities. We have politicians laughing about sending missiles into Russia, and then we have Russians crossing the southern border, and nobody seems to put two and two together. Seriously. These guys could come into the United States and do just as much harm as our missiles can do into theirs. But nobody's asking that question. So 50% increase just in the past month. We have VIP services for getting the Chinese up through Panama and through Mexico to our border. They actually have VIP Chinese services to facilitate all these Chinese that have money trying to get into the United States. Now, how do you get money in China? Usually it has something to do with having a privileged status, which oftentimes is linked to being a party member. Friends, it is very concerning that we don't have any idea who is in our country at any given time. And more than that, we don't have any control of our southern border. We have our military protecting borders of every other country around the world, but we don't protect our own. And it's intentional. You know that is. We're spending tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars supporting all these people that have come into our country. But remember back when we wanted to spend $5 billion to build a wall. That was considered absolutely wasteful and stupid. And then just a few years later, we have Kamala Harris down there at the border standing in front of the big wall that she didn't build, that was built by Trump. And she's pretending as if oh, look how secure everything is in front of this wall that I didn't build and I didn't want built. And I've stopped every attempt to build it. It's It's these type of lies that just are oh so over the top. Friends, we need to get control of things, and we need law and order. I know that's unpopular to say. We need law and order. We need a process. Donald Trump was just saying that he wants many, many, many people from overseas, from other countries to come here. And I think he's right. We should want all of the best and brightest. That's what we should do. We should allow tons and tons of people from other countries into our country who understand what freedom is about, who have skills and have talents that can build us up, make us into a better country. We should let talented, smart, skilled, and freedom-loving people into our country. That makes sense. And it might not hurt to have some requirements along the way for them to learn English. And then, let them become citizens. But we should have some security background checks. We should know who these people are. We shouldn't just take their word for it. They shouldn't walk into a camp or get herded into a camp, get asked their name with no documentation whatsoever. We have no idea who these people are, and we just go by their word who they are. And then they get documents from the U.S. government saying that's who they are, when in fact they issue that without actually knowing who these people are. Things need to change. That we know. All right, friends, we'll keep you updated on what's going on down there, but let's just say lots more people coming, and it is a serious, serious problem. All right, friends, thanks so much for joining with us. If you want to check out another video from this channel, there's one right up there. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report out.